Picture this, signing glyphs right outside the vector. Any girl in the world you can get next to. Have her in curls or laid back in sweats. Being on stage, collecting those checks. Everything got a price, that's right. What would you give to spend a day in the life? Platinum and ice, champagne flutes. Damn, that sound nice. What it sound like to you?
Well, good afternoon, School of Struggle family. It is your host here, Christopher M. I hope you're all having a fucking sensational afternoon. Friday here in Sydney, and we're going to bring you another podcast today. When I say we, it's just me today, so I hope you are more than happy to listen to me, because I know I'm more than happy to talk to you guys too. So today's podcast is firstly going to start off by saying thank you to everyone for listening in the first place. Do me a huge favor, if you're liking the content, do me a solid and go and leave a review on iTunes and subscribe as well. This is exactly what helps us start to get up in the rankings, and will help us actually be able to provide more value to more people. And that's the whole goal, to be perfectly honest. We just want to make sure that, I just want to make sure that we can get as much information out there that's going to help as many people get through as much stuff in their business, personal life, and tell you the stories of some amazing people at the same time too. At this point, we've done some cool stuff with some cool people. And it's time to give you guys a bit of a podcast on some perspective stuff. This is something that I hold very closely and dearly to my heart. Something that I think so many people take for granted, to be fair. Perspective, I think, is something that is almost the key to life. If you don't have a good perspective on a situation, it can pretty much kill you within a second. It can kill your mindset. It can kill your happy mood. It can do anything. You know, every situation is automatically a byproduct of your perspective or the way you react to it anyway. So if you can get your perspective right, it's something that's going to make sure that you'll be able to see light in any situation and have a better day even when shit is going wrong. Because trust me, in business, you're going to find shit's going to go wrong every fucking day. But it is the times when you can look at the perspective of it to see how it's going to teach you, how you're going to learn from that, how any good can come from that in any way, shape, or form that's going to make you see how much more beneficial a good perspective can have over a shit one. It can turn a bad day to a good day, and it can actually make sure that you see every quote-unquote negative as a lesson, and that's what's going to help you propel yourself forward into the next element of yourself too. So let's sort of roll into it. I want to start off with a quote, a very, very, very powerful fucking quote from a man named Wayne Dyer. It is, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that to me is extremely powerful. Purely based on the fact that, what I said a little bit earlier, if you just look at things in a different way, you'll start to see things differently, obviously, right? But you can change a terrible day into an amazing day. You can change a very bad business deal into a big lesson, and you can make sure that you never make that mistake again. But that's the big part there, learning from your mistakes at the same time too. And the perspective on that will make a massive difference for you if you choose to use that power of yours at the same time too. But I harp on that if you choose to, because that's going to be the most important part. I would recommend you choose to, because it's seriously changed my life. In this podcast, I'm going to teach you the power of perspective. To be fair, it's fucking unreal. It really has changed my life, and it's made every day better. But the second you start doing that is the second you start propelling forward. Because the second you start seeing good things, more good things happen. And that's guaranteed more good things will happen, because you start seeing it and you start visualizing where you want to be with that, and you don't really stop until you have to get there. Today you're going to learn a strategy on how to stop yourself in your tracks, take ownership in every situation, and live life on the terms of the most important person in your life. Now, I'm not sure if you know who I'm talking about, but it's the person listening to this fucking podcast. It's you. You're the most important person in your life, and you need to do me, and actually, no, fuck that. Do yourself a favor, but me as a byproduct. Start acting like you fucking mean it, because I can guarantee you, the second you start acting like you are the most important person in your life, because you are, you will start to see a massive shift in the right direction anyway. And you know what? In life, nothing is wrong or right with the course of some rare circumstance. Sorry. In life, I'll start that again. In life, nothing is wrong or right with of course, some rare circumstances aside, right? Wrong and right, especially in regards to where you want to go in life, are completely relative terms. Relative to you and sort of you only. Because only you hold the power of your perspective, and it only should matter to you. to be perfectly honest. And seriously, I mean that. Too often we can think of success or doing what we love as an end goal. But sometimes we have to look around and see it's the destination that we have to reach, right? Or that's the perception of it in the first place. What so many people fail to realize is that both of these terms are more an approach to the journey, not the journey itself. You are successful when you're walking your path, constantly learning and growing, right? And that's so true. You're only doing what you love when you see every moment as an opportunity. Seriously, do yourself a favor, right? On this, start looking at life in this way, and it'll start to change your life instantly. I can promise you that. Okay, cool, and that's the whole podcast over. Sorry, I couldn't help it, right? But look, let's get back to business. Where a lot of millennials and young adults, and I swear it's people that I personally know, seem to get really frustrated. It's because they see everything as permanent. Like, you might be working in a dead end job, right? You're stuck where you're right now, and you will not see the light at the end of the tunnel because you don't know what it's going to be for you. It worries me that people feel like this and they never tend to reach the desired destination of success. Again, which is not true. But no matter where it is you work, what you're doing, there are constant lessons to be learned, as I mentioned in sort of the full word of this podcast as well. Should you choose to learn them, that is anyway, right? So I'd wholeheartedly recommend taking the time to learn these lessons because it's what's going to help you, make your life better in the long term regardless. Unless you can discover those lessons and start to embrace your own journey, you'll never actually reach the state of feeling successful in the sense that you're learning, growing, and effortlessly becoming the best version of yourself daily. If you haven't noticed by now, I generally tend to do this shit daily because if you don't, you can go on a really bad path, and fuck that. That's just not what I'm trying to do. The reason that so many people tend to struggle with this is because it means taking accountability, and I know that that's a hard thing for a lot of people, right? I know that taking accountability for your own actions can be a fucking bitch because if you're in control, that means you have to make every decision. And if you're making every decision and it goes wrong, that's where you want to start blaming people. But the second you start taking accountability for yourself, that's where you're going to start seeing some great results too. So it's easy to sit in your office at your dead-end job and make it, known to yourself that where you are or where you're going in your life isn't giving you enough out of it, or you're not growing. It's completely up to you to make that decision, and I think it's one of the best you can make if you choose to make that. In my eyes, every minute that you aren't growing may unfortunately be a step backwards, and because if you're not learning from it anyway. But then again, that's a perspective, right? And that's just my perspective. I would recommend that if you're trying to propel yourself forward, I would adopt that and move forward with yourself too. This is the same as blaming other people for how you feel or your personal issues. You're completely capable of being in control of your own shit. Just fucking exercise it, to be perfectly honest. I think that will make the most amazing difference in your life if you choose to do that, as I said. The key is to be aware of all the actions that you take and be accountable for them. Seriously. If you can do that, you'll start to see some great things happen. And when you take the accountability, you start to shift your perspective from, blame to ownership, right? You're allowing yourself to open up and see opportunity instead of the issues when you're looking at a situation. It's the same theory for everything, right? It could be your work, personal relationships, even just the way that you feel about yourself. And let me say one specific thing here. Internal dialogue is fucking huge. I've mentioned it a few times across different podcasts, and I think it's something that should be mentioned daily, to be perfectly honest. And do yourself a big favor on this. Focus on the lesson and not the problem. So let me tell you a bit of a story that I had to start taking some big perspective on. Earlier in this year, I was working for a sports nutrition distribution company, right? And I was looking after about 45% of the country's revenue personally, and managing the company's other sales reps too. So for a 26-year-old kid, that was a lot of work to be dealing with. But that's just me. I tend to adapt quickly, and that's what I had to do. At this point, I was only working for someone else. I'd already had two businesses under my belt, and with one that winded up earlier that year. With the one that winded up earlier that year, and one that was seasonally engaged for most different things. So my whole focus was purely on this one job that I had at that time. For me, this was different within itself. I'm sort of used to juggling multiple ventures or different things at once. So focusing on one specific thing was nice for the time being anyway. At this point in time, if I was to do it again, I quite enjoy juggling a few different things because I like making sure that I'm covering so many different areas and getting as much value out to as many people as possible. Now, at this place, we had an unreal team, which people who I still hold extremely closely to me today, right? So, but in January, I was in Canberra. It's the Australian Capital Territory of Australia, and on a major account visit that I usually did every sort of 4 to 6 weeks. And the head of sales called me and told me, he goes, Chris, turn around and drive home. Now, we'd always joke all the time. Sometimes in sales, it's the only thing that gets you through, to be fair. And seriously, if you've ever worked a day in sales, you'll know that, seriously, just joking around with the people that you work with will make a day a lot better because it's so up and down. It really can fuck with your head, and it's mucking around makes it a lot better. And your team is what makes your experience 10 times better anyway. Shit, just mucking around can be the only thing to get you through some days regardless. But this call within itself, it actually wasn't a joke by any means. I was called and told to return back to Sydney immediately and return all my belongings that the company had given me because the company has gone into a voluntary administration due to some extremely poor decisions that the actual owner of the company had made, right? Think about it. It sounds shit, don't worry, don't stress. Now let's dissect that. I've literally just been called and told that I've lost my job, my car, my phone, my team. Fuck me, right? I'll have to admit, my first initial instance, I was pretty fucking worried. But I dug deep and thought of a way as to how this would actually help me as opposed to hurt me. You know what I mean? Because that's a quote that I tend to use a lot as well. Is this going to help me or hurt me? And I really had to do some serious digging on that one. Fast forward 9 months, I now have a completely new line of work, a functioning business that I actually hadn't even thought of entertaining before, and that's I'm just going to say a shout out to all my clients on this. Thank you so much for the opportunity to work with you guys, seeing your businesses grow and your brands grow and everything that's come and flourished from the work we've been doing together is what's driving me to want to do everything now too. Even this podcast, because I know it'll help other people do the same with their businesses too. One of the beautiful things about what's happened with that is I'm now working completely remotely. I'm literally doing this again from the home office. You know what I mean? So I do most of my work from my home office. If it's not here, if it's with a cafe, and I'm going to catch up with some friends later. But I'm doing everything. It's Friday afternoon, and I can work from wherever the fuck I want. That's a beautiful thing within itself. The business is now helping more people reach their own potentials. And sort of doing it in a way that unlocking capabilities that they didn't know they had within themselves. And it's seriously exercising a passion of mine. Helping other people win is what I want to do. That's why I do the podcast. That's why I do my consultancy business, because these are the things that I want to make. I want to make sure that other people are doing things and providing value to their network. Because if you can do that, make them feel good about themselves, make their business run efficiently, make their brand grow, sign some deals with people for brand deals and all sort of stuff too. That to me is amazing. And if I can do that more, I will. So please, let me help you. The business within it, I'm very happy with it, but it wasn't even existing prior to that too, right? So for me, seeing other people win is me winning. I love that shit, but it came from losing everything. And I think that's pretty fucking crazy. So from losing everything, something beautiful arose, right? So perspective. That was my perspective, and I decided to look at it as a positive, not a negative. And do yourself a favor with perspective. Learn to look at it as an advantage to you, because there's lessons everywhere. It's just up to you to find them. I've always tried to train myself to search for the positive regardless of the situation. When I say always, I'm going to be honest. I was a pretty negative person in my younger days, to the point where I lost a lot of friends. I got into a lot of fights. I had a lot of bullshit happen, and I can't blame anyone but myself. And it had a lot to do with my perspective, what I was focusing on. And trust me when I say things have changed. If people had seen me, 5 to 10 years ago, I'm a different person. Anyone who does know me from back then will guarantee that they are very surprised. I don't know if they're surprised with the person that I've turned out to be, but they all comment. And if they're not commenting to my face, I hear them commenting to other people too, you know what I mean? So regardless of whether it's a positive or a negative comment, I know that I've changed and I know it's for the better. So if it's a negative, that's on you. And my perspective of that is that it says more about you than it does about me. And I'm very fucking happy with where I'm at, and I'm very happy that stuff like this can help other people too. The only way you can elevate your experience in every day in your life is by looking for the positives. That's why I started doing that. But, back then I didn't. Ever since I started doing that, my life has changed for the better, and I just want to do the same for other people too. If you don't feel like you're learning from the situations that you're in, unfortunately, that's no one else's problem but your own, to be perfectly honest. That's the heart's truth. Sorry for the reality check. It just needs to fucking happen sometimes. Chances are, someone around you knows something you don't. And it's on you to ask them the questions that will help you turn the key that opens the door to the life that you actually desire in the first place too, right? So everyone within their network has people that can help them. Find them, ask them questions, and fucking execute. It's on you to pay attention to the little things around you, and that's up to you completely. It's on you to take the little leaps of faith and create moments of growth through opportunity. No one else is going to do that for you. You need to make sure that you're doing that. Growth is very, very, very rarely a result of being on your own. Growth is something that you harvest from learning and how to utilize the people around you properly anyway. And doing it every day. Connecting with people to learn. Connecting with people to teach so they learn. It's a value proposition between each other. If someone out there that has an amazing skill that you want to know, and you know you have something you can provide to them too, it's actually an obligation of yours to reach out to them so you both learn and you can both do more for the world at the same time too. Whether it's in your business or not, this could just be a personal development thing for you too. But the key to shifting perspective is to remember that you're doing this for yourself and you want to know what you're aiming for. Now, for example, a job where you perform tasks you hate will always be seen as just a job to you, right? And I've been in that. I've been in jobs that I fucking hated. I worked, I wasn't in school from about 16 years old onwards. I learned how to design shit pretty quickly, and I went into a design job, doing some crazy stuff for companies like Coca-Cola, Optus, some really big names, right? But it didn't fulfill me, and to me it was just a job. I ended up getting fired. I've been fired from every job, quote unquote, I think I've ever had. Some to my dismay, and some, obviously like that last one that I spoke about earlier, wasn't really my issue, but it definitely came out like that too, right? So, but it's the perspective and what it did for you. But, the person that I've grown into now has changed, and that can happen to anyone too. But I was just like any person that hated their job. I fucking hated it. I didn't want to be there. And I had a bad mental state about it. But the second that I changed my perspective on it's when I went forward. But even a situation like that's an opportunity within itself, should you choose to see it like that. At that point, I didn't see it like that. But for someone that's in that situation, this is an opportunity for you to learn how to actually exercise the best solution out of it for yourself too. Now, you can still take lessons away from the task in that job and put them into practice into any future leap of faith that you wish to embark on anywhere, right? So, and trust me, if you tend to look at it that way, it could be the difference between making it for yourself and making it for someone else, right? So, I would always want to make it for myself now. It's just it's what I want to do. But making it for myself is actually making it for you guys too, right? So, the better you guys do as a byproduct of the information that I can give you or the work that I do for you guys, that makes me extremely fucking happy. And if you think of it, the last, sort of 4 to 5 minutes of this podcast, if you think about the last bit of that, nothing physical changed at all. You just changed your perspective, and you started to learn the new things that will help you propel yourself forward, right? So you didn't, in a job like that, if you just start to look at the lessons you learn, you didn't move offices, you didn't get a raise, you didn't, work with people that are more fun. The only thing that changed was your perspective, and that's what made the fucking difference. Now, for me, as I mentioned, perspective is a fucking wild thing, and I genuinely tend to think that it's what will keep someone in a positive mind state to really propel yourself forward. Like I will definitely hold this one high in business, but I don't think it's going to be one that will stray away from, relationships or family or, even though your personal development at the same time too. If you can have the right perspective about the situations, you'll definitely have a much more happy life. And that's what it's all about, right? Taking an opportunity to stop and smell the roses sometimes and enjoying what it is that the journey has to bring to you in the first place, because just because things go wrong sometimes doesn't mean it's going to go wrong forever. I can tell you that right now. Just because Let me say that again. Just because it's going wrong now doesn't mean it's going to go wrong forever. So learn the lesson and do yourself a favor and do that starting today. Start looking at the positive in every situation because it'll make a big fucking difference for you. And guys, do me a huge favor. Never settle for second best is the one thing I want you guys to never do, right? So never settle on yourself. Start looking at the positive in everything. And look at the lessons you can learn from every situation too. That's about it for this podcast. I'm going to wrap it up now. I just wanted to make sure that you guys are in the right headspace for everything you want to be doing. And a bit of a perspective on perspective, because the word itself can sort of confuse people sometimes. So I thought if I can lay some ground rules on what it is and show you guys that it can help so fucking much, I wanted to do that. Hope you guys have an amazing fucking day. And I'll be with you guys again soon. Peace.